So I carried the pot of stew. We put it in the boot of the car, took a suitcase and packed everybody's nightie into the suitcase and put in the boot, and took some mats, sleeping mats. And I said to Auntie, oh yeah, plus two of the girls who were living with us and all my children, we squeezed ourselves into my car, and I started driving. Unfortunately, it was drizzling. And by this time, it was like maybe 3 in the afternoon. So I started driving to Ole, a town that was 9 miles away from Obodeeti. Obodeeti is the village where we were staying in Kwale. So I started driving to Ole, and Ole had one terrible bridge that was made of wood. And with the rain, I was not quite sure what I was going to meet when I got to that bridge. But as always, I was praying inside me as I was driving that car with all my children and everything. And as I got to that bridge, I just looked at the wood, the two long pieces of wood across the little stream. I just put my tires, and before I knew it, I was on the other side. And water had covered part of it, but I could see the wood. So we went over straight to my cousin-in-law's place. His name was Richard. We went to the place. The mom came out wondering why we were coming so late. By then it was already going dark because it was raining and all that. So anyway, they made us welcome. They were very happy to see the children. So Richard's mom hadn't seen my children before because she never came to Lagos, so she was very happy. So we spread our mat. They brought water. We gave the children their bath, changed them into their nighties. Whilst all this was happening, Auntie and my two girls, they had cut up the yams, boiled the yam. We already had the stew. So as the children finished having their bath, they ate. We spread the mat and everybody slept. When we woke up the next morning, before 7 a.m., my husband's grand uncle, Mr. Akwe, who lived in Obodeeti, had sent 2 people to us to say we can now come back to the village, that the danger is over. I didn't know anything about the danger until I got to Obodeeti. When I got to Obodeeti, my husband's relations were singing and dancing when they saw me and the children. And I said, what's happening? They said 15 minutes after I drove off from the village, lorry loads of soldiers that were passing from Warri to Asaba, because Kwale is a good road for them to use, were passing in front of the house. That the first 2 lorries passed. When these Sabiokuta men heard the lorries and this fight was still going on, they needed help because some of them were wounded. There were 3 men. 2 of them were already wounded from the fight. So this other one ran out with his torn shirt. He was trying to stop the lorry so he could report what was happening. 2 lorry loads had passed. Another 4 lorries were on their way. When the first one stopped, the other 3 stopped behind it, making 4 lorry loads. And soldiers started jumping out of the lorries into different compounds because they were not asking anybody any question. It was later when they now said to this man who was waving them down, yes, what's the problem? And he said, that he came to sell cloth and the band has refused to pay. They said, what? Do you know where we are going? To the war front. And you're stopping us because of cloth. So they carried this man and threw him into the lorry, threw his bicycle into the lorry and said, you'll come with us so that you know what happens at the war front. Then they started driving off. But they said, meanwhile, the soldiers who had jumped into all these compounds were asking, who lives here? Who doesn't live here? And one of the elderly women, while she was running into her house, trying to close her door so that they don't come and find, they pushed the door. The door fell on the woman and she died 2 weeks later. So when we now came back, they were telling us all these stories and said, thank God you carried our children away, because the soldiers were asking them, are there any Biafran people here? Are there any Igbos living in this village? Are they this? Are they that? So they said they were so happy because they could have carried plus my car, not just take me and my children, you know. So I then understood why they were happy and dancing, that I had saved their children by taking them away from the village when all that commotion was happening.